In this video we're going to look at how to calculate the volume of a cuboid. On the left hand side of the screen here I have got a cuboid made up of lots of individual cubes. The volume of this cuboid essentially means how many little cubes do I need to make the whole shape. And what we've done already is we've found volume by counting cubes. However, that's not always efficient. What we need is we need a system that will help us figure out the volume quicker than counting. If we look at the top layer of cubes, we can see that it's made up of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 cubes. We can then see that the whole shape is made up of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The volume of this cuboid is 6 lots of 9. 6 lots of 9 gives us 54. Now, we don't know how big each of these cubes are, so we can just say that it's cubic units. Now, that's much quicker than counting individual cubes. However, we are still counting individual cubes. We counted what was in that top layer. So what we can do is we can speed things up even more. Rather than us thinking about how many cubes are in a layer, we can take a sort of shortcut. We can figure out how many cubes are in that top layer by doing the length of the layer, 3, times the breadth, which is also 3. So all length and breadth really mean is how long one side is and how long the other. So length and breadth can sort of be interchangeable. We then multiplied that by how many layers there are. We saw there were 6 layers, so it means we've got a height of 6 units. And this means we can change our working. We can say the volume of a cuboid is its length times its breadth times its height. So this means my volume is going to be 3 times 3 times 6. Now, the order we multiply things in here doesn't matter, so I can choose to do 3 times 3, then multiply by 6. I could do 6 times 3, then multiply that result by 3. If we go left to right, 3 3s are 9, 9 times 6 still gives us the 54 we had originally. So that's going to give us 54 cubic units. So if we look at the second one, rather than counting layer by layer, we can consider the length, the breadth and the height. So if we look across the way here, we can see that it's 6 cubes wide. Along this side, we can see it's 5 cubes. And up and down the way, we've got 4 cubes there. So we say the volume can be found by doing length times breadth times height. So the volume is, now we need to be careful with how we're putting these in. Length and breadth don't really matter, but height has an important meaning. Height is talking about how tall something is from the base straight up to the top. So here 4 has to be our height. So I could write 5 times 6 or 6 times 5, but I would definitely have to put the 4 in place for the height. Now the order we multiply this in doesn't matter, but we should always try looking for the easiest way possible. Now I'm looking at this 5 I know 5 times 4 is nice and easy. 5 times 4 would give me 20. 6 lots of 20 would give me 120. So that's going to be 120 cubic units. Now, when we are doing problems like this, we don't usually have to count the dimensions. We're usually given them. So, if I wanted to find the volume of this cuboid here, so this one here that I've just coloured in yellow, we start by writing our formula. Volume is length times breadth times height. So we would always write that formula down. Next step is to substitute in our values. So we've got length, breadth and height. Length and breadth. So length is across one side, breadth would be across the other. So notice the 9 and 2 are down the bottom rather than being along the top. So I could have 9 times 2 or 2 times 9, but height, the last one, that has to be this up and down dimension. So I have to put 3 there. Now, the order I do this in doesn't matter, but let's look for the easiest way. If I do 9 times 2, that's going to give me 18. And 18 times 3, while manageable, is a little bit awkward. But if I go 2 times 3, that gives me 6. 6 times 9, well, both those are single digits, so we should be able to do that. 6 times 9 would give us 54. I suppose another way to do it is we could do 9 times 3. 9 times 3 is 27, and then double that. Doubling 27 would give us 54. Now, here, all our dimensions are in centimetres. So this is like having 9 centimetres cubes that way, 2 cubes that are 1 centimetre long that way, and 3 cubes up the way. So rather than saying centimetres, units cubed, we can say centimetres cubed. So we know how big each of the cubes would be. So this is like 54 of those little wooden cubes that you would use when you're talking about your tens, hundreds and units. Now, the second one here, this grey coloured one, I'm going to find its volume. You'll notice I've got all 3 dimensions. I've got length and breadth, and I've got a height. But if I write down length times breadth times height, I'm going to have to be a little bit more careful. I'm not just going to do 2 times 8 times 55. Now, the reason for that is this is in centimetres, this is in centimetres, and this is also, well no, this isn't in centimetres. I don't know what I'm saying. This isn't in centimetres at all. This is in millimetres. We've got a clash in units. We need these units all to be the same. So the first 2 are in centimetres. It makes sense to change the third. Now, remember, there are 10 millimetres in a centimetre. So if I've got 50, I've got 5 lots of 10. The next 5, this 5 units, well, that's not enough to give me a whole centimetre. So I've got 5.5 centimetres. Essentially what we've done is we've taken our number of millimetres and we've divided by 10, and that's converted it into centimetres. So my length times breadth times height is going to be 2 times 8 times 5.5. Again, carefully consider your numbers. What is the easiest way to multiply these? I'm looking at this 0.5 here, and I know if I double a 0.5, if I double a half, it's going to make 1 whole. 2 lots of 5.5 are going to give me 11. 11 times 8 will give me 88 cubic centimetres. So both of these questions here are second level because they're just finding the volume using length times breadth times height. Now here, this takes us beyond second level. This is still working with the volume of a cuboid, but because I've brought a little bit of algebra into it, we're using some third and fourth level skills here. So find an expression, made a little typo there, find an expression for the volume of this cuboid. Now you need to remember, an expression is just something like this. It's a mix of numbers, letters and symbols. But for this particular cuboid, we're not dealing with length times breadth times height. We've got y times 9 times 10. So when we're multiplying numbers and letters together, we need to remember we have a number at the front. The number at the front, we would call that the coefficient, and then any letter terms would go at the end. So 9 times 10 is 90. 90 times y is 90y. Because all of these are in centimetres, I've got 90y centimetres cubed. So this fact here, that is a second level fact, but bringing in this sneaky little y here, instead of having a number, brings it up to third or fourth level. Now, this here, there's no algebra involved, there's no letters involved, but this is third level, because we're dealing with compound shapes. We're dealing with two shapes that have been put together. So what we tend to do here is we tend to work with them separately. So I've numbered the top one 1 and the bottom one 2. To find the volume of this shape, I need to find the two separate volumes and then add them together. Now, I can do a set of working like this for shape 1, and then another set of working like that for shape 2, and add the two results together. But for a compound shape like this, we can do it across 3 lines. Volume 1 is going to be length times breadth times height. Well, we can see how tall it is, we see how wide it is. The problem is, I don't know how broad it is, I don't know that dimension. This is where I need to look carefully. That blue line is the same length as that blue line, is the same length as that blue line, is the same length as that blue line, is the same length as that blue line. So it means up top here, that is 9 millimetres long. So the first shape is 9 by 6, and it's 6 tall. Now, number work getting a little bit tricky here. 6 times 6 is 36. So down the side of my page, just do a little bit of column multiplication. Need to multiply that by 9, so that's going to be 54. 9 threes are 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32. So the first shape has a volume of 324 millimetres cube. So that's a tiny, tiny cube. It's 1 millimetre by 1 millimetre by 1 millimetre. Now, the second shape, the second volume. So we need to check, we know its dimensions. We know it's 15 in that direction, we know it's 9 in that direction, and we know it's 5 in that direction. So that means we've got 15 times 9 times 5. Putting the 5 at the end there, because 5 is the height. Again, think carefully about how you will do this. I'd probably start with doing 15 times 9, or 15 times 5. Basically, I want to do a double digit multiplied by a single digit each time. So I probably wouldn't do 9 times 5 to begin with. I think I'll do 15 times 5, just because I know that that's 75. Then multiply that by 9. 9 fives, 45, so 5 carry a 4. 9 sevens are 63, 64, 65, 66, 67. So I've got 675 millimetres cubed down the bottom. So I know the first volume, I know the second volume. All that I need to do now is get the total volume. So I can say the volume total is, and the way this has been set out is deliberate, because this is just set up in a wee column addition. So I can do 5 plus 4 to give me 9. I can do 7 plus 2 to give me 9 again. And 3 plus 6 is 9. So the total volume is 999 millimetres cubed. And that is a third level skill. Now, the tasks that you've been left today, this is practicing the skill at very basic level, so this is all level 2. So that's the worksheet that has been left for you. You've got this page in the blue book, which is of a similar level. Maybe the number work gets a little bit trickier. So both of these, level 2. Level 3 work, if you want to have a go, there's this page here in the red book. Notice the first few have been split up for you, but with the next ones, you're going to need to think carefully about how you want to split it up. You might want to try sketching these shapes out and adding some lines on to show how you're splitting them up. On the back of the worksheet that the straightforwards questions are on, there's this increasingly difficult exercise, which starts quite straightforwards, but soon gets pretty tricky the further through it you get. But for all of these, they're all based around the style of working that you saw on the previous page. Start with your formula, substitute any numbers in, and then do the number work, remembering to write your units at the end. Okay, all the best with that.